Hi, this is Bubby Johanson from Upper Deck, and you're listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Hello everybody, my name is Ian Taylor and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective, an awesome community of card collectors and creators. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out. With me is my co-pilot in all things Marvel Cards. Surfer man, does whatever a surfer can. Flies through space, looks so cool. How he breathes, no one knows. Look out, here comes the surfer man. It's Norrin Rad.
My God, I love you so much. I love it when you sing at me. I don't know what it is. I get all tingly inside and sparkles in my eyes. It's all so wonderful.
Is it also kind of like...
See, you can't even behave. It's been 5 minutes of this and nothing. Not even. Unbelievable.
I was going to say something completely and utterly innocent. I was going to say, is it like the Trolls movie where someone literally...
Deep cuts, huh?
Yeah. No, not really. My 5-year-old's all over that. I've seen Trolls 2 about 6 times in the past week alone. That was the intro for last week where you overslept, by the way, so I didn't end up using it.
Wow, how rude. Yeah. How rude.
Yeah.
Did I oversleep or did everybody else wake up too early? Okay.
You see what I have to deal with here, Bubby. So we're not alone this week. Folks. Another in our exciting new series of Meet the Upper Deck people. We have a guest. Yay! Introduce yourself, sir. Who are you? What do you do?
My name is Bubby Johanson, and I am the Director of Game Development at Upper Deck. How
exciting. Welcome,
That's
Bubby.
Awesome. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. You sent the bio over to via your wonderful colleagues Tyler and Jody, and you look like you had fun writing that. Did you write that just for us?
I did, actually, and I did have a lot of fun writing that. It was kind of like a little blast to my own internal past.
You're the best, man. We appreciated that so much. It was so much fun. We were reading and we were like, yes, I get all this. This is perfect.
That's
It was awesome. No, it was really appreciated.
It was, and it's not as many pages as I'm about to make out, but I was reading it thinking this is great, and then I turned the page and there was more, and it was wonderful. So thank you for that.
No problem.
I'm probably going to kind of go into some of the stuff that's on there, but obviously in your own words. So short of actually reading it out, you've been at Upper Deck how long now? When did you start?
13 years, I believe. I started in 2007. So yeah, 13 years.
2007. Wow. You look like you must have joined straight from school. You're looking incredibly fresh faced.
Youthful. The glow.
Well, thank you. I'm actually a lot older than I look, so it's refreshing to hear, though. Thank you very much.
Good.
That's lucky. That's lucky. Right. I shave, I look 13, so that's always my go-to.
This is my quarantine look right now, so.
That's good stuff. Yes, yeah. That's stuff, too.
I've cut my hair in 6 months.
Oh,
really?
I don't have that problem anymore. Who did we have on recently? Peter Scanlon, the artist from
he was
Species 95, and he had a fine plague beard, as he referred to it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
He looked good with his plague beard. You don't see him often with a beard. He was rocking it. He looked good. Very distinguished.
He pulled it off. Well, he is an educator. So I think beards. I think beards
ethos comes handy when you get the facial hair.
Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent already. So we had Jason on, your glorious leader, a few weeks back, and he spoke of you as if you had grown up together. So tell us how, because obviously you know Jason from back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I ever slip and hear the name Mosh, that's what I call him. So he's always been Mosh to me growing up. So that's I call him around the office, and that's just how I call him. So I've known him since '91. We started 8th grade together, and so I've known him for about 30 years now. So we go back pretty far, and so we kind of grew up kind of, going to comic shops, going to card shops, and then when he actually opened up his own shop while he was still in high school, he asked me if I wanted to be a manager with that, and I was like, okay. And so I was managing his shop, and I was in the 11th grade, and so it was a good time. Like, had comics in there, cards, both sports and non-sports. Had some TCG stuff in there. We had some Magic in there back in the day. So learned a lot about how things work at a very young age, from just a store distributor perspective and an insider collector's perspective.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
Hang on a minute. Let's just rewind a second. Jason opened his own comic book store when he was still in high school?
Yes, he absolutely did. He was...
What a gangster. Like, in my book, absolutely. That's like straight up. That you don't mess. That's the guy in the lowrider with the spinning rims, and you're like, don't mess with that guy. He owns his own card shop.
Yeah.
In my head, like, yep, that's about right.
Yep.
That's
so his parents helped him out to get it started. His mom actually would watch the store while he was in school, and then when he got out of school, he would go right to the store. It was one town over, so probably like a 15-20 minute drive from when we grew up, and he would manage it in the afternoons and evenings, help from his friends, of course. And I was the Sunday guy, so I was always there on Sundays. I'd bring in my TV to watch football. But the Sunday was very slow, so it was a good time to catch up on things. A lot of bagging and boarding of comics and sorting things out. So that was my Sundays. But yeah, he had that for a couple of years until he went off to college, and then he kind of hung it up.
Wow. Bagging and boarding is remarkably relaxing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on furlough at the moment, so I've had a number of bagging and boarding days. So as well as card sorting days. So from your bio, you were saying that you went off and you did. Hang on a minute. So you went off to college and you were a full-time student athlete. So
yeah,
was it football that you did?
No, I actually ran track. I was a sprinter, so I was a fast kid growing up. But I studied aeronautical engineering and was on the track team. And so between those two things, my free time was very limited to do anything else. And plus my my ability to have income for anything was also very limited. So that kind of stopped most hobbies that I had, except for things that were very cheap and expensive.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I understand that.
I think we've all been through that period.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that seems to be a recurring theme for a lot of collectors who are kind of our age, who started.
Yeah. You have no expenses when you're a kid except for your allowance, or maybe something you're doing around the house, so you can have all this spendable cash to get some cards and some comics. You're on your own for the first time. You're like, oh no, I need to actually buy things I actually need.
I need to eat what I survive on. This is weird. Strange. I cannot eat my cards. This is weird. Right. No nourishment whatsoever.
It's usually around that sort of time that people discover the joys of relationships with other people. I was going to say the opposite sex, but I'm not going to make any assumptions about it.
That's fair.
Good.
Yeah. So you mentioned in your bio, you mentioned Marvel Universe 1990, I think, or 91. So
Series 1.
Yeah, were they your, because you did baseball cards before that? From what I understand.
So it was kind of like, I was always kind of like a hybrid, entertainment nerd guy versus sports guy. Garbage Pail Kids early on in the mid 80s. Started up with Series 2, didn't get on board with Series 1, so I couldn't get part of that. Wasn't part of the cool kids, had the Series 1 binders back then. But then started playing Little League Baseball, and my dad was like, all right, let's check out some trading cards as well. And so my dad went hard into it. Like, we were at flea markets and mall shows and all kinds of stuff. And, back then it was very under the radar for things like that. Like, we'd go to a flea market and there was a guy that was rolling dice. You give him $1. You roll a die. Whatever it lands on is what cards you get. And so it's like all kinds of crazy stuff like that back in the day. And 88, 89, 90 was my hardcore like baseball collecting. And then around that time, started getting back into comics again. Found the X-Men comics, found Marvel Universe Series 1, and I was like, baseball. Let's get some Marvel characters going on. And so most of my card collecting from then on was pretty much Marvel cards, non-sport cards going forward.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Do you still have the sets that you collected?
Yeah, they're actually right behind me. I pulled them out when I was getting ready for this last week, and I've been going through stuff. So I got my Series 1, my Series 2, Marvel Universe. I got my 94 Masterpieces set. I don't have my 92 anymore. I'm not sure what that is, but I can just go pick one up for $10. They're super cheap to get.
Yeah, which is really nice.
Yeah, Fleer Ultra X-Men, that first set. Love that set.
That's a great set, man. Looking back at that set, I'm just always surprised by the range of art, like how I'm carried from character to character in that set. It's so much fun.
Oh, yes.
And that was the first time from like a card design standpoint, something really elevated itself to say, okay, it's not just about the characters in the card and the art and the Marvel characters. It's also about the card itself. And I'm like,
yes.
Got the high gloss finish, you got the decal foil hits, the metal inserts, all that stuff. It was taking it to the next level to me from that case.
100%, right? Because before that, you would have like baseball imitation, right? Like the 1990, you have the white border, you have the name tag, and then when you got to Fleer Ultra, you started getting really cool designs like the mini X's and the all the really fun kind of shapes and everything. Yeah, absolutely love that.
100%. Still got my Fleer Flare set. I look back on that and it's like, okay, it was cool because it was shiny, but the art wasn't great.
I think my favorite thing about Flare was the boxes that they came in.
I still have some of those, man.
Man, those are the best, dude. I don't know what it was. When I was in the malls and I would see those box packs, I was like, this is quality stuff. Like, it worked on me. It did not matter. We
tried to replicate that in one of our sets, and the cost to do that now is just so astronomical on a pack basis. For like each one of them is like a mini piece, and it just the price of it would have to be just astronomical to get those things out there.
One of the sets that you're a father of, the Marvel Premiere, man, like putting in those tins, that's a ballsy, really cool move, man. Like I've never bought a pack for myself, but Ian bought the tins because he collects, he's a master collector, and he had them shipped over me before I gave them to him. And feeling those tins and that kind of like premium kind of quality up front, really cool, man. Such a cool experience to get that.
That was our first shot to kind of elevate the Marvel brand a little bit from what people have been knowing. With the price point, with the content, with the packaging, everything. We just wanted to make it so you get this thing and it feels like I'm in it. This is awesome.
Yeah. Of course, they weren't tins with Series 1.
Series 1 wasn't a tin.
Yeah, they were boxes with a slip case around them.
Yeah, we actually went to the tin because we wanted to stop folding those cards. And so we went. Because we're like, okay, the booklets, they can be folded, and so it still has the score marks on there. But we wanted to present them to the collector in a way that was just like, all right, you fold them, it starts to degrade the card a little bit. You get a little bit of crease marks in the art. We didn't want that, so let's give them a tin. Put it all out there. If they want to fold them themselves, go right ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna come back. We'll come back to Premiere.
I skipped ahead.
It's quite all right, dear. Because it's on my hit list as well. I'm holding myself back from beginnings as well because good God, I love that set so much. So you collected your cards. You went off to be an athlete and possibly a pilot at the same time. Was it aeronautical? You said.
Aeronautical engineering. So I never could fly them, but I can make them.
Oh, okay. Cool. Get together with Harrison Ford because he can fly them.
They're right up.
Harrison Ford. I did check this. Harrison Ford was 78 yesterday as we record. 78.
Doesn't look like it at all, man.
He's gonna do Indy 5.
I know.
I want him to do Indy 5.
I think he's gonna be the Sean Connery role for this one. I think that's my my feelings. He's gonna be like the dad of somebody because he can't jump around and punch people anymore. I guess maybe he can. I don't know.
I think he can.
Don't put it past Ford. He can do it. Okay,
my bad.
Some, like,
can't disrespect
robot legs in him, robot arms. We can keep him going. I say it's the goal of the nation to keep this man becoming Indiana Jones. Always.
I'd be okay with that.
I'd be okay.
I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that.
All do together. Move forward with.
Yeah. So fast forward then. How did you come back to cards? Was it when you started at Upper Deck?
It was a little bit before that. Like I got back into comics after I got my degree because I got a little bit more money in my hand. So I got back into comics a little bit, which put me into the shops more often, which puts me exposed to things more often. So I started picking up more packs of things. Mostly on the sports side, actually. There wasn't anything non-sport out there. This was around 2002 to 2006.
Yeah.
Where it's like there wasn't really much out there on the non-sport world except for some movie products that Topps did. I think Rittenhouse started getting into some stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was dabbling in some of the cards on the sports side a little bit, getting back into comics, and then an opportunity came up to get back into to get a job over at Upper Deck, and I was like, okay, let's go. Actually, to go to Upper Deck, I actually tried to first get into Upper Deck on the entertainment side. So I was big into World of Warcraft at the time. I still kind of am. And I was playing the TCG, playing the game. They had the license. They were doing the TCG over there. So I'm like, yeah, let's see if I can get over there and be part of that team. But nothing ever opened up for that. But something opened up on the product development side for the NBA. And I was a big Detroit Pistons fan, big NBA fan, and so I knew my stuff. And so, like I said, I'm one of those weird hybrid guys that knows sports and entertainment. So I used my sports side to get myself in the door to try to pursue down the line something with the entertainment side.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Nice.
So you've landed at Upper Deck, and you're in the sports world there for 3-4 years?
Yeah, I was doing an NBA from like 07 to 09, and then I did NFL from 09 to 010. And then as Mosh kind of pointed out, that's when kind of hit the fan over there, and entertainment got cleared out, and it came down to two people in the building that could actually lead the charge to get entertainment back on the maps, Marvel in particular.
Wow.
Good. So, and this was Jason and yourself.
Yeah.
Going in there, like going into a wasteland and thinking, okay, what's going on? And from what he told us, it was Iron Man 3. It was the kind of one that you had to get out the door very quickly.
So he said that actually was Iron Man 2. I was listening to the podcast, and I'm like, Iron Man 2, come on. So that was the last thing that the old regime did, and actually they brought me in a little bit to try to help out with some of the memorabilia stuff. So in Iron Man 2, there was one card that we did that was memorabilia from Iron Man's actual suit.
Oh.
Super rare. I think there was like only 10 of them in the product. Because I think we got part of the suit from Marvel at the time. So we cut up some of it, figured out how to cut up the suit a little bit, put it in a card. And so there's like 10 or 15 of them out there in the product. Super rare. But that was the first thing that we ever put out that I was involved in.
Wow. Okay. So that one goes out the door, and then you've kind of got the future is in your hands. What did you start with first? Do you remember?
Yes. And so we wanted to come out with something that nobody really has seen in a long time, if at all. And that was kind of the, me and Jason's kind of plan to do Marvel Beginnings. And so we're like, let's put something out there. Let's just put out this massive set that nobody's seen before. Get people that want to collect massive base set, have them do that. Put some cool content in there. Get some cool art cards in there, and see how that does. And so that was the first foray that we had, is developing that beginning set.
It was absolutely incredible. I remember buying Series 1. I got 3 boxes of each, actually. Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3 I only got last year. And it was a minimum 3 box to get the base set alone. It was just vast.
It was a tremendous set. It's funny because I did that checklist all at one time.
Yeah.
So I had this huge spreadsheet of this entire, all 3 series, and it was on my hard drive, and my hard drive actually crashed.
Oh.
So that checklist was gone.
Oh my God.
But what we did is we actually paid somebody $2,000 to come back and search the fragments of the hard drive to find that checklist. And so that checklist cost at least $2,000 to make.
Wow.
One of my favorite stories I've heard so far. That is fantastic.
That is absolutely priceless.
That was the beast. That was, 540 cards for that base set, man.
I would have paid that too.
Yeah.
I would have tried to find that sucker too. No way.
Yeah.
No, that's a lot too. So talk us through some of the inserts that came to mind. Because, I mean, beginnings, Ian and I were talking a little bit before. They have some of the first inserts ever introduced into the whole Marvel kind of brand stuff, right? You got,
Yeah, so with some of the beginning inserts, I mean, the die cut one was something that was pretty cool. And we themed them out, so there was a different kind of theme for each one of the series. I think one was X-Men, one was Avengers, and one was Villains, I believe.
Villains was set free, yeah.
And so that was kind of a die cut theme throughout that. We also did something, I can't remember the technology, but it's kind of like a lenticular card that was out there. I can't remember what it was called. People started calling it micro motion, I think.
That's it, yeah.
But that was something that we did, that we just found, on some website or somewhere, doing some research on some cool stuff, and it made kind of a cool card. It kind of a little bit kind of looks like the metal stuff from back in the day, but not quite as shiny with that. But then there's also the sketch cards that were in there, and sketch cards was something that I had no idea how massive of an undertaking that was at the time. And so doing some research from our old regime, it's kind of funny, because when that whole department had the exodus, it was my job to go into the entire wing of the building that was entertainment and dig out things that we thought was valuable for what was going forward. Files, samples, emails and things like that. And so my day was, my 8 to 5 and then like 5 to 9 every single evening was me in the other part of the building, just going through people's offices and trying to find stuff. And it was very ominous, because it was just like, this dark, empty place with just me walking around in there. So I found all this stuff about these sketch cards, sketch card artists, sketch card contracts, things like that. So that's how I kind of started to learn about how this whole process worked. The records weren't very well kept, and so it was me kind of like taking all these things that I found from emails and files and putting them into a database. And that was kind of my way to figure out, okay, these are the artists I need. Now, how do I contact them? And so we're going back into old contracts, trying to find contact information, looking out on people on Facebook and Instagram, and just reaching out to people. And so I was just constantly looking for people that wanted to be in our sets based upon their previous activity with us. And that was a pretty big chore. Like it's a smooth process now, not totally smooth, but it's a much smoother process than it was. But there was no history within Upper Deck of how that process was done. And so it was just kind of doing some research of like, okay, these guys worked on our sets, these guys are good artists, these guys like us, let's try to reach out to some people and see what goes on. So that was an undertaking. It was educational and stressful at the same time as it was fun.
Some of the major, Marvel Masterpieces 07 and 08, right? Those pieces there, they have some of the best artists that have ever been in the sketch card kind of arena. So I'm sure those were the names, because in beginnings, you see a little bit of a repeat there.
That's where I found my information from. Like, I actually found this box of sketch cards that didn't make it into the product because we had too many.
Did you want to know my address now?
They're now destroyed.
No, don't say that. Why would you say that? That's so messed up.
I know, it totally is.
Unicorn have them, or they're on the farm. Why would you do that?
And thank you for listening to this episode of Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
It's really wonderful.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides of my job, is that we have extras of things lying around, because we create extras of stuff because of waste, because of potential increases in volume, quality assurance issues. Somebody needs a replacement for something, and then at a certain time, that all gets destroyed, and it's kind of like a little half-mass kind of thing, but it keeps things clean out there, man. It keeps the secondary market clean.
Well, I tell you what, this is a little mystery, and I don't expect you to know the answer to this, so or even if you're allowed to tell me.
No pressure whatsoever.
No. But this is one of those things. In Masterpieces 2008, B, I mean, it was the second one. They were writer autograph cards.
Yeah.
And there were 25 of them that came out. For the longest time, there's speculation that 2 other writers were supposed to be in that to make it 27, which is 3 9-up pages. Hey, get me using Ken Baroff's 9-up phrase.
Oh, you're killing it, man.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
impressed.
I know. I would have got away with that if I hadn't pointed it out.
I try to stick to that too. I like that philosophy. The old 9-up thing. It's great.
The 9-up.
good philosophy.
He's the father of the 9-up.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean,
man.
I mean, he was very modest about it. He said, "Well, I'm one of them," and I'm like, "No, you're the guy." Anyway, and so I can't remember who they were off the top of my head. I think it was Warren Ellis and Brian Michael Bendis. So because I have a feeling that some early information got out there on one of the boards that they were supposed to be there, and so someone, and that post is still on Blowout from like 12 years ago or something crazy like that, that someone speculates that the cards exist but they were never signed. Or I think it might have been, I can't remember if it was stickers or if it was, anyway, but the cards exist, but they were never signed. But now, from what you told me, they've probably already been destroyed. But to this day, I have 2 gaps. I've left gaps where they would be.
Nice. Yeah, it's like, I think, so I've actually found our quality assurance allocation for those cards back when I was looking through the offices, and so we had a couple of each one of the cards for replacements if we needed to, and I don't remember ever seeing those 2.
No,
I would have remembered.
Yeah.
I would have remembered Warren Ellis for sure if we would have seen that. But
it may well be that they were planned but never signed for whatever reason.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
A lot.
It's just one of those. It's one of those things that's always kind of bugged me years later, and I kind of thought, well, this guy went in there. After
what better time?
Opened all the cupboards. Right. So let's ask him. So of course, the other thing on Beginnings was the. And I'm pretty sure this was the first set that had these on the Marvel side, printing plates and comic panel.
Yeah, cards. I agree.
So are you responsible for those?
I am. Like printing plates.
I'm just going to stop now and say thank you. Thank you.
Printing plates, it's something that we've done in other products, and so that was something that was just easily carried over. I don't know why that wasn't done before. It's like one of the cheapest things that we can make. That is one of the coolest inserts that are out there, and so. Most of the times you would just throw those plates away. It's like, just chop them up and put them into a set. It's so easy to do.
So the plates do come on a sheet then, right? Is that what happens?
Yeah. And so like if I wish I had at the office, I got all kinds of things I could show you. But like the sheet is like, a 90
up. You're in the office.
There you go. So it's like a 90 up or 100 up. So what that means is a big sheet of cards that has either 90 or 100 cards on it. And so like we have them, we frame them, we put them in the office. This is one Mentos. We give them away. Like I think Masterpieces, the first one that we did for 16 had some redemptions for some full uncut sheets.
Yeah.
So that's what the plate looks like. And so they cut up that plate sheet and round off the corners so it doesn't chop anybody's hands up, and they just go right into the set.
Wow. You just solved a huge mystery for me. Thank you.
Oh, yeah?
Because that's going to... No, I'm serious. No, because I was always wondering, because I was like, well, they have rounded edges. I guess they could have cut them off, but I was like, because they're not inverted, right? So I was always wondering, are those directly used for the card, or are those a product of...
You see some of them are actually like smeared a little bit and kind of...
Right.
So they're absolutely used.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty
favorite interview today.
There are people who really do like and go after the ones that have got the smudges on or the bit of the...
Oh, so good.
Yeah. Which is...
Love it. More authentic.
Superb.
More authentic.
It's
upper deck employee blood on it. You're like, yes. Rawness.
So that's what happened to the entertainment team.
There you go.
So there's a cool little video bit of content that you marketing guys did from Beginnings, where someone's actually doing the comic panels and selecting them. You probably remember seeing that. Was that you?
No. what? I knew it. I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, man, he looks familiar. I know I've seen his face somewhere.
Yep,
no
that was me.
way.
You wouldn't believe the number of times I've seen that video, and I can't believe I didn't.
I found it on, I think Ian or someone found it on YouTube. It was one of us or something.
We've linked it loads of times.
We linked it in the group, and we were just like, yes. That's classic.
Yeah, so like
friends. This is the start of a beautiful relationship. This is just going to be our show from now on. Just us three. We're just going to hang out. There we go.
Let's do it.
Just make
it was crazy. Like it's something that I thought up from because we do it with jerseys and memorabilia on the sports side. So I'm like, what's cool to do that we can cut up that'll be something that is meaningful for collectors of comics and cards. And I thought up the idea, let's just chop up some old ratty issues and stuff. And so like whenever I would get comics back then, I think it might have changed a little bit, but I would always get comics that are graded like 1 or 0.5. So it's like sometimes they're missing a cover. Sometimes, half the pages are just torn up. And so we take these comics that, I would buy for, like I got like an Avengers #1, I think for like $400, 0.5 grade. The had half a cover. Everything was just torn apart with it. But then I cut that up and put it into a set. Got like about 80 to 100 cards out of that. Each one of those cards was going on secondary market for between $20 and $60. And so I elevated the value of that book by how I put it into that medium, which I don't feel so bad about cutting up comics when I do something like that. But it's also a cool way to like, show off these books that people aren't probably ever going to be able to afford themselves.
Also too, like you get to appreciate the frame of the panel. Like like seriously, man, you did a great job with composition. Like I'm really super awesome, man. Cause I looked through a bunch of these things cause I found one that had the surfer and I was like, done. I found it. I was like, I'm loving this insert. And then Ian and I would talk about it. And I was looking at them on eBay and I really appreciate, and 80th really did the same thing. Like who people who did 80th too, they really took their time to think about how it would sit in a card. Yeah. And I greatly appreciate that. Yeah.
That's a time consuming process. Like that was me spending some evenings out in our warehouse with a hammer and a template. And I would take the book and I would sit at my desk and kind of lay out every single one because you got the front and the back sometimes. Okay, which one's going to have the better image, the front one or the back one? So you kind of like, checkerboard it out a little bit, and then you go and you start chopping it up with using a hammer and the dies that we have. But yeah, sometimes I'll sit there, horizontal, vertical, which one's a little bit better? Can I squeeze this guy's half a head in, or should I put his full head in? And it's a process, but it's cool to hear you guys kind of appreciate the time that we took to get that thing done.
Oh yeah, we definitely do. For sure.
It's kind of interesting how that's it's a very big staple of our products now. Like a lot of our products have a lot more of those. And back then it was very rare. Those things were hard to get. They were maybe case hits, if even that common. The movie products had maybe one comic book in it for the entire movie run. But now I think they're starting to put more things in and more common issues, but things are just so relevant to what they're doing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I should actually correct before someone comments when we put this up, is that of course the am I allowed to mention Rittenhouse on this call without a thunderbolt coming down and striking me because I'm talking to Upper Deck? Good, because you mentioned them before. So
you have a small window, Ian. Hurry.
Brilliant. Of course, they have done comic panels before. They've done them for complete
Avengers, right?
That's right. In 2005, I want to say 6.
Yeah, but they weren't. Yeah, they weren't trading card size, right?
No, they were big. They were oversized. They were big frame pieces.
Yeah, right? They were like comic strips in a newspaper, right? So like you would have like 3 panels in one thing.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be like a section thing.
That was a big debate on the forums for a while, where it's like, Upper Deck wasn't the first people to do it. It's like, well, we were the first people to put it in a card set, in a card pack, before it was like a redemption or something like that. So, but yeah, it was fun. It was cool.
That's awesome, man.
I mean, they're brilliant. I mean, I think back when the set 1 came out, I think I pulled one, and I immediately went on eBay, and I think I've got. There weren't many. I think there were only 10 different ones per set. And I think I've got 6 or 7 of the Series 1 and maybe the same for the Series 2. So, I've not tried to go back and actually finish that. But at some point I will. But I think they're quite rare. Interesting side note, sorry, Bubby, but when in the group recently you posted for everyone to show their comic cuts. Do you remember that?
Yes, because shamelessly I wanted to see everyone's collection, so that was the way to do it.
And one guy posted, and he's got almost every comic cut from the Avengers set that Rittenhouse did, and he's got them for a particular issue, Avengers number 15.
So he's trying to compile it.
He's managed to complete most of the book.
Whole issue, which is crazy.
That's impressive. That is super impressive.
Yeah.
Those things aren't easy to come by.
I know. I'm trying to do it now for the Surfer one I'm telling you about. But I think a lot of people are too now, thinking about how do I composite this whole comic book back together in these 9 pages. I think that's sick. I think it's a great idea.
It was easier, like some of the older Spider-Man ones that we did, those were perfectly made for these cards because those panels that are in those comics are almost exactly the same size that it needs to be for a trading card. It's kind of uncanny. But as you get to the modern stuff with the bigger splash pages, you have to be a little more creative with what it is. And so you can put together an old, like Spider-Man number 8, you could probably put together an entire page from the comics that we do.
Wow.
But for something like, First Appearance of Electra that we did for 1 year, I think it'd be hard to do because the splash pages and the action pages are so much bigger.
Yeah. And were you anything to do with the Deadpool? Because as I know, I'm fast forwarding a bit here, but you've moved off.
That was all Matt. I moved off from trading cards primarily. I want to say 2015, 2016. Like Masterpieces was kind of like my swan song for trading cards.
What a way to go! What a way to go! But Deadpool, of course, had the comic panels, but it also had, and I think it was a differently numbered card that was the cover of New Mutants '98. Yeah. Like they've taken that idea and they've done some cool things with autographs, and I think they're going to put some coins and some cards or something like that along with the panels to kind of show off the year that it came out. There's all kinds of fun stuff now to just elevate that type of thing, because there's a lot of books out there that you can cut up that you can have that perceived value just kind of be elevated by how we kind of portray these things in different ways.
It's also kind of crazy now, right? Because so many comics are being slabbed, right? That you don't get to see the inner workings of them anymore. So it's kind of cool to get these card sets and be like, oh, there's a panel inside this comic. Yeah.
I'm so conflicted with slabbing comics, man, because you gotta read them, but then they're not as valuable. So it's like it's kind of polarizing the collector base of comics, where it's like you got your guys that are investing, and you have the guys that are reading. I will always be a reader. I haven't slabbed a single comic that I have. But then, Mosh and Grant, our director of product development, they're all about slabbing and grades and stuff like that. So,
he and I go back and forth on this all the time. That's classic.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Funny. So we did beginnings, and then, of course, premiere. So we kind of touched on it earlier, but am I right in thinking that's kind of taking another kind of leaf out of the sports side of the business, where you've got some pretty high-end products coming out?
Yes, or is that no? I think the only thing that really mirrored a sports product on that guy was the brand. Because we had the premier brand was in sports, and so I wanted to have a brand that was recognizable, and even a card design that was a little bit recognizable. So that first premier card design is kind of an homage to an old premier sports set as well. But my thought process for that set was I kept seeing over the next couple of years of doing Marvel stuff is how ravenous the fan base was for sketch cards. So I'm like, well, what if we just made an entire set that was sketch cards? And so the idea initially was it was all going to be sketch cards. The entire thing was going to be sketch cards.
Whoa.
And there'd maybe be a insert set that wasn't. But I wanted everything to be a sketch card in that set. So if you look at how the base set sketch cards were actually done back then, it mirrors the base set. And so you have, cards 1 through 60, and that same checklist 1 through 60 is the sketch cards. And you look on the back, it still has that card number as well. And so you kind of, my hope was like financially it wasn't going to work out if everything was a sketch card. It would have been a way too high end product. It would have cost too much money. The content wouldn't have panned out. So my hope is that people can take that and still make a base set out of sketch cards, finding their favorite version of that character that was sketched by whatever artist. And if you want to try to collect an entire artist run of a base set, you can do that as well. But it was just trying to get as much sketch card content into a product as humanly possible, which I think we succeeded on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just a touch. And so that is, I mean, honestly, anybody who collects Premiere, that's the big goal, right? Is to have a sketch card of every character. That full. I mean, that's the goal, right? That's the thing.
That was the thought process. So that's great.
Smart. No, that's the thing everyone does. And people do Ian and I'm trying to think of who it was, but we had a lot of collector friends who've done them in frames where you could see like a full sketch card run of this particular character run from that set. And I loved seeing, and I don't know if that was the first set, but I'm pretty sure it is, but I could be wrong, where you had the name of the character on the card as well.
Yeah, and that's part of the whole like base set kind of feel of it. I wanted those sketch cards to feel like a base card, and so it would have everything that a base card would have mostly.
Wow. I love that so much. That's great, man. Very cool. Very, very cool. I love that about the Premiere set a lot, actually. I think that's probably the thing I enjoy the most, like a sketch card collector, which is, was the second thing I'm into in terms of Surfer and then collecting sketch cards. My favorite thing about Premiere is that the fact that it's able to blend into the whole base card set.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yet it's original art. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, that was the first set that we did that really focused on the art as opposed to anything else, because everything in that set is an original art piece of some way, shape, or form. When you look at Beginnings, and that's all stuff that you can find from comic book stuff. So there's this huge database of Marvel art that we can pull things from. Sometimes, like back then, you probably might even see the same image on a Rittenhouse card as you would on an Upper Deck card, just because we're pulling from the same database of stuff. But that was the first set that we did that was like, okay, everything in here is original. And so all the art from sketch cards to base cards to insert cards, everything was an original art piece, which was pretty cool to do.
Yeah. And then the serial numbers too, right? Which was the big deal in the base set.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everything $1.99, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's kind of a staple of Upper Deck's high branding for perceived value is you number everything.
Smart.
Everything limited, everything feel like it's special when you get it. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
No, it is. I mean, I remember. Was there another insert in that set? Was there a corner box type of insert?
Yeah, we had
thinking about correctly?
The first one it had a classic corner patches.
That's it.
Manufactured patches was something that we took from the sports side, and so I kind of did an homage to the old corners because I thought the corners were some of the coolest parts of comics on the covers growing up, because you have variations of characters, and sometimes it's a group shot, sometimes it's something crazy. Yeah. So we kind of took some of the more well-known ones throughout history and put them into the card.
I remember folk going absolutely bonkers for those, even, dare I say it, almost more than the sketches in some cases.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
for the patches.
Awesome. When this was when Scoundrel was still very, very active, and they were as soon as you saw them on eBay, they were gone like that, and the bids. So people did snaffle them up, and I haven't looked for them since because I know they won't be cheap, but I'm sure there's not many of them out there.
Mine took a while to find. Took a while to find for me.
Yeah. Well, I've only just recently acquired the signed Black Cat. So the other thing about Beginnings, of course, is the breakthrough issues, and then all the signs that you had.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I'm so glad you remembered. Yes.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to touch on. Is
genius
getting all of those people to sign. I mean,
that actually wasn't that bad.
What?
Marvel back then was a different beast. It wasn't the monstrosity. This this Disney entity as it is today. And so people were more accessible back then. And so we have a great team on the talent relations side that goes out, whether it be actor, athlete, comic artist, their job every single day is to go out and talk to these people and get deals done for autographs. So we kind of put the list together, and it was their responsibility to start tracking these guys down, and they did a phenomenal job getting that done. But there was probably a 95% rate of people saying, "Yeah, let's do this," and it was amazing.
You got Stan Lee,
Mm-hmm.
you got Joe Sinnott, you got Larry Lieber,
Mm-hmm.
you got so many of these guys have since left us as well.
Gabriel Dell'Otto doing ones like right when he was becoming really hot well, like Annihilation and stuff. Like you had some that's a massive.
But what I love about it is it wasn't just like the 60s and 70s guys. You had books from the 90s, from the noughties, and you'd not seen them do this before, because those books, the 90s was, let's be honest, the quality levels didn't exactly stay the same throughout. That's fair. And so, you've got Secret Wars 8. I've got a Secret Wars 8 cover breakthrough issue signed by some of the guys who did it. And for me, because I was buying those in 80s and 90s, that's my wheelhouse. That's the books I grew up with. So that actually almost, strangely enough, means more to me than one of the 60s ones.
I'm with you on that, because I'm of the same ilk, man. So it's like I grew up reading comics in the 80s and 90s. I didn't care about these old people that did comics in the 60s and 70s. It was like, whatever. But we have, but we still have to. I still recognize that value, their history.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
You can't say enough about those guys. But having those guys is like those guys that I recognize. Those are the guys that I know, the guys that I want to see. And so it was kind of a melding of old and new, getting those together.
Yeah. And I think that's what was so really interesting about Beginnings, right? Because it was so massive, you could have that range in there. And those things don't come up, man. Ian and I were talking about those breakthrough auto issue cards. Mm-hmm. They do not come up at all.
Yeah, they didn't. Those guys didn't sign a lot of them. And so there's a lot of names, a lot of people. So that kind of made up for the volume. But each one on an individual basis is pretty rare.
Yeah, that's so. I couldn't even find it on Google image search. That's how.
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough.
Because my Black Cat's my character, and it was Marv Wolfman signing the Amazing Spider-Man 194. Nice. It was card B73 from set 2.
Oh, man.
Finally, it arrived last week, and someone who we've had
good friend of ours.
Yeah, a good friend of ours who's he's not actually been on the podcast yet, has he?
We got to get Letty on here. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah, we will
for a while.
Turns out he goes, I'll check, and then it turns out, hang on a minute, I've got 4 of them.
Yeah, he packed that.
He's a hoarder, man.
He has everything.
I was like, oh my giddy aunt. So he very kindly let me have one of them, which was great. So Beginnings and Premiere, completely kind of, still to this day, Premiere, it's obviously had its 4th go around recently. The one we mentioned very early was your swan song, was Masterpieces 2016. And so you'd have been involved along with Jason in all those early conversations with Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so just tell us your journey with Masterpieces 2016, because I know our friends in the groups are going to fall over themselves to hear this.
All right. So, this was around the time that we developed, Beginnings. We had a couple of movie sets under our belt with, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man 3 came out, Premiere was coming out, that was in the works. We're like, okay, what can we do to elevate the brand even more? How can we do something to blow people's minds? And so the Masterpieces brand was something that, most people grew up with, back in the 90s. It was something that elevated trading cards back then. It can't be denied what impact those sets, especially the 92 set, kind of had on the industry. And so, Upper Deck tried to reinvigorate those back in the OOs. In my eyes, unsuccessfully. I didn't care for the direction, but I wasn't part of the team at that time. So we tried to look at how can we make this kind of like, a big wow for some people. And, the 20th anniversary was coming up at that time. In 2012, and I think we started talking about this in 2010, 2011, and like, what can we get Joe Jusko to come back? If it's the 20th anniversary of the first set, let's get the same guy who did the first set to try to show people that we're back. Like, okay, let's get it done. So yeah, it was some negotiations with Joe, and he was all for it. And I think we started negotiations, 2010, 2011 to get that thing done. And we had this whole schedule mapped out. It's going to take him, a year to get things done. We might make 2012. It possibly, but we're not sure. If Joe kind of, does his magic, we can get it done. But Joe said to us, he's like, okay, in 1992, I was rushed to get the set done. I don't feel like I did my best work on that set. I don't want that same thing to happen with this set. I want to make sure that everything I put in there is my best work. I have the time to do it, and I'll do whatever I can to make sure it's the best images of these guys that I can do for you guys. Okay, it sounds great. Let's get this thing done. So 5 years later, when the set actually came out in 2016, it was something that we would poke Joe a little bit here and then. How's it going? You haven't done a piece in a couple of weeks. What's going on? But we wanted to give him the space. We wanted to make sure that he was comfortable doing things. So you'll see in some of those images, every single image is dated. And you'll see dates from 2012 to 2015, I believe. And it was just him the entire time, taking his time to do his best effort for those sets. So that's kind of how the art kind of came out with it. As far as like structure to that set, we kind of looked at what we did with Premiere a little bit. We wanted to make sure that it had the same kind of high-end feel, high-end collectability. Everything that was in that set, we wanted to make sure it had something to do with the artist that was in place. We didn't want to have, a bunch of different artists, put insert sets and things like that. We wanted to make sure that everything that was in there had something to do with Joe. Even the sketch cards, we told people that if you do some sketch cards, do some homages to some of Jusko's 92 pieces. And so you see a lot of people who did artwork based upon those cards in their own style, which was pretty darn cool. So everything about that set is Joe Jusko related in some way, shape, or form. So talking with some people internally and externally of how to make this thing kind of pop from a Premiere level is, talking with Grant Sandground, our director of product development on the sports side. He's like, well, make them really thick, make these cards really thick. And so like, all right, so I was going to do like, let's do a 24 point or something like that. He's like, no, 60 point or more. So it's like, these cards are like, triple the size of a regular trading card thickness wise, super thick. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's step one. Step two was like, all right, the numbering, what should we do with the numbering? So actually, I talked to some shops about, some of our key shops, like Wayne Wagner, Eddie Doria, some guys that own some shops in Canada that do a lot of stuff with Marvel trading cards for us. He was like, oh, make everything numbered, tier everything, make everything super rare. And so like we were going to number things, but they're like, take it to the next level, tier it out, make it sure so we have some different levels of tiering, make it so you have high series chase and things like that. And so like, all right, so now we have this tiering system using the rule of 9, of course, that tiering system, if you guys noticed. And so it's
nice. I know who to blame now why my Silver Surfer's so expensive. That's good. I've been hoping that we'd find the person responsible. So good. Keep going, please.
And so it was kind of like a collaboration of, me and Mosh, starting up the idea, talking with our other departments on the sports side, talking with some shops, making sure this thing kind of covered all the bases of the different collector bases that we have out there, to give it that absolute top level experience that we can.
Wow.
I know. I'm speechless. I'm looking at you and I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about that set, one thing I probably spent more time than I wanted to was the what if variants of the base set.
Someone had fun building those.
In
your studio.
So, like, I'm not a big Photoshop guy, but I'm hugely great with Microsoft Paint. Like, I can do things in Paint that people are like, you know, Paint? That's crazy. And so I did this mock-up of the Black Cat card.
Free.
So I have this image that I created of how to make this image from Joe go into this comic from Black Cat. And so it was like, a step-by-step process of like, okay, here's the image from Joe, here's the comic, here's what you remove, here's what you replace, here's what goes above it and below it. And so it's like this whole transition to get that card going. Mm-hmm. That went into our design brief, our documentation of how to design a set for our design team. And so they took that, and that card almost looks exactly like that image that I created in Microsoft Paint.
Please tell me you still have that somewhere.
I do have that somewhere.
Oh, damn. I would give my right arm to see that. I would give my right arm to see
maybe I'll send it to you sometime.
Oh, you're a beautiful man. I will dance at your wedding, sir.
And so we took all of these cards and we said, okay, we want all of them to go with their first appearance. And so based upon this kind of thing, they did their first round on the design team, and then I had to sit back there with the design team. It's like, all right, so we got to move this around. This comes from the upper left to the lower hand to the lower right. This has to pop over. This has to pop under. So we had to do a lot of collaboration with our design team to make sure that each one of those cards was the best it could possibly be for that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's sick.
that was fun, man. Because like I'm a big what if guy. Like from back in those comics.
Yes.
What if is everything that you think might have happened in a different world, and it's all this crazy stuff. It's and so it's like I wanted to try to bring that. What if Joe Jusko did the covers for the first appearance of these guys' comics? Well, here you go. This is what it's gonna look like.
Can you imagine?
I love it.
I don't. You probably won't be aware of this, but Joe very kindly.
What a gem.
About a year and change ago now, found some of the preliminary pencils that he'd done for the set, and he offered them first in the Marvel Masterpieces collectors group that we run.
So I might have. I don't want any proof of this. It just might have happened where I was bothering him to see if he had any prelims for months. Poor guy.
And then I think
Did you guys check out the book they put out with those images in it?
Oh yes.
Did you see one image that's in there that's not in the set?
That rings a bell. Yes.
Wait a minute. Who is that?
It's upstairs.
Who was it? Yeah, I can't get mine either.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Mr. Fantastic.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And there's a Galactus one.
Yep.
And most of the FF team, right?
So that was around the time where I'm sure you guys are familiar with like the segregations of teams within the Marvel universe. Yeah, right. Which is why right now big aliens can't ever happen again. But so that was a transition, and so there's a couple of guys like Surfer made it in. Because he was done and he was approved before the edict came out.
2013. I saw that. I was wondering because the SIG's on the 13.
And so shortly after, I think Fantastic and Galactus were two of them that Joe did, and Marvel's like, this is no longer. We can no longer portray these guys in our merchandising. We're considered merchandising. Wow. So those were never to be seen. What I'm hoping is going to happen is we might see them in the future. If that edict gets lifted, there might be a card at the end of the set. That's card 101.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking you do a 10 lost cards.
Yeah.
Just like the 92 set, baby. I'm just putting that out there for people. You don't have to listen to me. It's just a suggestion.
There you go.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love those pieces too, man. And they're obviously, no pun intended, fantastic, but they're just great, man.
They are super. So the end of that story is I've got not the actual. I think it was the very early, like the first prelims they did, not the actual prelims because they're worth a lot more. He found the Black Cat one. And she was originally reversed because she's facing left as you look at it, and originally she was facing right, but he flipped her when he did his final pencils to then go on to the painting.
Okay.
So
that was one of the first ones that he did. That's why that was in my mock-up, because I had that image.
Oh.
No, it wasn't. I didn't use that image. I used, I think, the '92 Black Cat image for my mock-up.
That's really cool.
Even so, yeah. and so the other thing that set kind of came is I think it's the first time I've seen this in a Marvel product was the buybacks.
Oh yeah,
from '92.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? What was the origins of that one?
20th anniversary, of course. That was part of it. Buybacks is something that wasn't new in the hobby, right. but it was new in these kind of products because there wasn't so much of a history for Marvel cards. And if there was a history, it wasn't for brands that were similar. So there isn't any Upper Deck Marvel cards from '92, but there are Skybox Marvel cards from '92. We now own Skybox, so okay, that's fine.
Of course.
Wow. Yeah, because we now own Fleer, and by Fleer we own Skybox, and by Skybox we own Impel, right. And so we own those three marks now, and so we're now we have a history.
Yeah.
And we have all. And since this is the 20th anniversary of Masterpieces, let's go back to our set from '92, get those buyback cards, put a stamp on there for some 20th anniversary, get some of those signed by Joe Jusko, and just have another chase for people. Another way to see those cards, kind of reinvigorate that '92 set a little bit.
So those IPs are now owned wholly by Upper Deck. Because obviously
Correct.
The companies don't exist anymore, but the IPs.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because I remember that with Masterpieces 07, which is my set. I know that you 2008.
That's fair.
2008 is, I would argue, that is definitely a different quality mark. But 2007 had a fair crack at it, including getting Joe to do the box art. So and those oversized cards that he signed. Where was my brain going with this? Yeah, the different parallels in 07, the base, the foil, and the gold border had different logos on the back.
Yep.
So they had Upper Deck, Fleer, and Skybox. And the Fleer was the foil, and Skybox was the gold border, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that to this day kind of irritates Mosh, just because it's the branding's all over the place in that set. It's like, is it Skybox? Yeah. Is it Fleer? Is it Upper Deck? And so if you look at the Masterpieces now, it's just Skybox. There's nothing else on there except Skybox.
And I love that you kept the Skybox name, right? Because there is kind of a legacy there. That's really awesome.
You got to, man. And if you're going to bring that Masterpieces, it's a Skybox brand. You got to bring that back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, smart. That's awesome.
So Masterpieces 2016 came and absolutely blew everyone's head off.
Well, I do have a question that's on my list, and I'm so sorry.
There you go.
What was it like to see the original art in person? Because I imagine you saw it in person.
The actual canvas pieces?
Yes.
I didn't see those in person. Never saw those in person. No.
You were robbed.
Yeah.
You find out who has that, and you go take a look, sir. It's well deserved. Okay.
Yeah, he just did a bunch of super high res scans and everything, and that's all that we ever got. We never got the original pieces because he had other plans for those things. Much more valuable in his hands than everybody else's hands. So.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the standard with most of the artists. They make. Part of their commission comes from those pieces is they sell them afterwards, and that makes up a big chunk of their income.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense.
Sense.
Joe actually did do some sketch cards for one of the premiere sets. Am I right? I'm looking at you, Norrin.
Mm-hmm. You did. He absolutely did. He
which
did
one
it
was that? Was it premiere
17?
17.
Should be.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I mean, he's done sketch cards. He did a few before that as well. I'm trying to think.
That was part of his contract where we said, okay, we want to had 100 sketch cards in that contract, and they were kind kind of spread across some different products. And so it's just something to kind of keep his name out there and keep him going for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't think you've got any issue with his name being out there.
You, not at all.
Yeah,
I mean, you did the same thing with our good friend Bianchi, right?
Yeah,
I mean, Bianchi,
the same deal. Like you saw that, like he had some cards in that set and some subsequent sets after that as well.
He's a lovely man. He's
so nice.
He was amazing to work with. Our art team had a really good relationship with him.
So, do you, when you were kind of exiting stage left, pursued by Bear to go and work on trading card games, TCGs, had you already started planning for 2018? I'm just. There's one thing I'm always curious about is when did 2018 start getting planned?
2018 probably started getting planned in 2016, I'd say.
Oh wow! Okay.
Whoa.
So maybe even 2015, because like Bianchi did the set in a lot less time than Joe did for 2018.
15 months, I believe.
15 months, yeah. And so, yeah. But with that said, we were having a meeting on Monday actually to talk about our 2024 artist selection, and so we're starting to get a little bit ahead of the curve if we can right now. We got 2022 already set in place.
Oh.
And 24 is going to be talked about on Monday.
Oh, okay. All right, I've just had a light bulb
this is
moment
what you
in
do.
my head.
This is what you do. You get Ian and I on the phone. You just leave your phone on. You don't have to say anything.
It's a bud dial. Sorry, man.
That's fair.
Oh, better still, I'll just buy a plane ticket and a face mask.
I'll risk COVID. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Flair Retro isn't a set that I've actually had hands on. It kind of happened. It kind of came out at a time when I missed a few years of cards. Marvel 75th being one of them. Yeah. But Flair Retro, I've kind of come to. We've seen some people do breaks of that in the group very recently, and it has got all sorts of shenanigans going on in there. There's just so many elements to it.
My favorite set that I worked on is 2013 Flair Retro. That was, I mean, if you read my bio and you look at the content of what's in that product, everything that I said I like is in that product.
That's what I mean. It's Bubby's sandpit.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah.
Like we did a retro brand in basketball, so that the concept wasn't entirely new, but taking that concept and putting it into a Marvel base. That goes back with the history now. We have the history of all these sets, and so we can do a retro brand. We have the rights to do all these designs for Marvel Universe, Series 1, 2, 3, 4, Flair Ultra, all that stuff, Metal, Flair, all that stuff. Yes. And we even threw in some every insert set except for every set in there except for the base set is a throwback to something, because some of those inserts are even from the sports side. Look at the 2000. Yeah, exactly. Look at the 15 set of retro, and it even has some of like the 1960s Flair inserts as well. And so it's like we had some fun with that. That was a super fun set to do.
Yeah,
that's actually really hard.
You just lit up like a Christmas tree.
I love it.
Look at you.
That's awesome.
That was fun. That was like one of those things that say when you go to your job and it's not like work. That was that set for me. It was just like I just had fun doing research and getting designs out there and just reminiscing about my collecting days in the early 90s, making that set. It was amazing.
That's kind of the journey for collectors too. Like when we collect that set, that is the set where it's all reminiscing, right? Yeah. Especially if you come from a hybrid background like you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that set is all reminiscent.
And that was one of that set where it's like, okay, there are cards in this set that aren't autographed. It's not a sketch card, and it's worth $10,000.
Yeah.
Okay. It's one of those PMG Spider-Mans, PMG green Spider-Man.
I don't want to talk about PMGs. I'm still missing the green for Surfer. I don't want to talk about it. Another sore subject. I got tons of sore subjects. Yeah, actually, it's funny because from a collector's side, I think that set's really difficult to get because the people who are not hardcore Marvel collectors like Ian and all of our friends were also you were mostly sports people but had a foot in Marvel. Yeah. Also collected that set. Yeah. So getting that was one of those.
Yeah, that was one of those first sets that kind of brought in that
Usually.
not just the fan, but it's the collector, the guy that wants to take something and maybe flip it, maybe make a profit. They didn't know that they could do that before. And they're like, oh, you can make a profit off of Marvel cards? Okay, let's check it out.
Let's go check it out.
Sorry, Marvel guy. I'm going to take all your cards.
Excuse me for a second. I just have to buy everything. And then
Exactly.
Yeah, well, funny enough, we're still seeing that on EPAC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's been crazy recently.
Oh, man.
The MM18 Bianchi Red Spectrum Spider-Man just went up on eBay. 10 grand. Yeah.
For the red, dang. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean,
Well, no, that's their asking price.
Oh, all right.
I think.
They're setting the bar, though, man. They're setting the bar. It's everything below that. It's going to be.
They've only got 15 feedback. So, I
Who are they?
I'm sending them that. The username is something really funny, like erotic something as well.
It is
it's
erotic
bizarre.
something. It's really bizarre. We were cracking up.
The second word isn't something.
So there's nothing legit about this entire thing. Okay, got it.
Nothing legit. No, just a picture.
No, we do. It's interesting. There is a running tally of which ones have been seen in terms of the prelims and the red spectrums in the group. So, what I was going to say. So we've been brought to task before about not talking enough about MCU sets, and of course there were quite a few MCU sets on your list as well. I'm just now starting to get into them, courtesy of the gentleman that we had as a guest who said you never talk about MCU cards, and I was like, great. And he was great, and he's a lovely guy, and I was talking to him today, and he's got me into them in a big way, and he's a high end autograph. He comes from the sports background, collecting background, so he goes for the high end.
Rated
autographs. He's got a safety deposit box, and he only owns about 40 cards, and 7 of them are Robert Downey Jr. from Iron Man 1.
Ooh, that is a gem right there.
Yeah. So he's seriously into it. So Brian, hello Brian.
Hey,
but you had a hand in, obviously Iron Man 2 we've talked about, pretty much all the Phase 1 and a good chunk of the Phase 2 ones as well. I mean, I'm not as familiar with those sets because I've only recently kind of got into it, and I've started on the ones on EPAC, which are all the ones since kind of 2017. So none of the your list. So I imagine all of those would have been like retail product that went into stores. Any in terms of how you approach those sets, and obviously the actor autographs are the most sought after thing in those. Is there anything you can tell us about how you approach those sets after you got going?
The biggest thing between MCU and the publishing side is how it's routed through Marvel. And so when you have like the publishing sets, which is the comic book stuff, it goes to one team, and the team is usually, the people that are working on comics, the people that are in the marketing for comics. But when you talk about the MCU stuff, it hits a lot more people, and so you have to route things through the legal department a lot more often. Every single image has to be vetted through the actors. So the content that's in this thing is all pretty much dictated by the studio. And so there's not as much room for creative process as there is on a publishing side, just because it's a lot more hoops to go through. And it's not really a bad thing. It's just a different thing where you have to change your mindset. Okay, you can't do this. Like there was an insert that I wanted to make for Guardians of the Galaxy, and I wanted to call it Cherry Bomb, and it was based upon she had a song in the movie, and it was going to be the insert that revolved around all the different weaponry that was in Guardians of the Galaxy. And so I couldn't do that because it had potential to infringe on the rights of the music license name. And so all these different little things you have to watch out for from a legal perspective, just because it's a lot more high profile. There's a lot more people are involved, and want to make sure that it's on the up and up when you put something out. And so you just have to go into those sets with a different mentality of like, okay, this is what I want to do, but it's probably not going to match what's actually going to happen. After talking with the studios, it's a collaborative effort of like, give and take of I want to do this thing with the set. Well, you have to do this because of X, Y, and Z. Those reasons, but it's a different thing. Imagery is also an issue just because they consider their movies now animated features because the live action is all in front of a green screen for the most part. And so you don't get images for these things until, you know, they don't get done with images until like sometimes 2 weeks before it releases into the theater. So there's no way you're going to get that into a trading card set unless the card set comes out way afterwards, which sometimes it does now. Like we used to be able to release with the movie. Now we release hopefully within the year after the movie comes out, just because we're still waiting for assets from people. The talent has grown as far as notoriety as well. Like we got Chris Hemsworth and Thor for a song and dance for autographs, because, you know, Thor was out there, nobody cared, and now it's a different story now getting these actors, because the MCU was such a phenomenal success that, you know, now the agencies are stepping in and they want to make sure that everybody's treated correctly. So it's a little bit more difficult than it was when I was doing it by far.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you still try to get the themes in there. Like I used to collect the sets from one of my first movie sets was the first Batman set in '89.
Yes.
My cousin came to visit me one day, and he just gave me a box and he gave me a binder, and he's like, "Have some fun." And so that was awesome. And then I got into like the first TMNT set back then too. And so I look at what they were able to do back in the late '80s, early '90s, and you can't do that now just because of how the process works from a film aspect.
Yeah.
Is the images, you know, some of those sets, there's images in those sets back then that aren't even in the film, because you know, you get those images before those cuts even happen. Like there's no way that happens now. Everything has been vetted through 45 people at Marvel, so you make sure that you get something that is a finished product. And they want to make sure that they're showing off the best possible image for the product too. So I totally get that. They're a machine that just needs to make sure that everything is seamless. Like, absolutely. But yeah, it was, the first sets were interesting because I had to do the photo selection, I had to do the type, I had to do the checklist, I had to do the sketch card acquisition. I had to do everything with those things because we didn't have the processes in place to get that done because the entire entertainment team was gone. And so if you look at those sets, Thor, Captain America, every single one of those cards was done by me, unless it's in entirety. We had
crazy.
Our team assembled the cards. They did their amazing job with the color corrections and making sure the card looks good. But actually, the composition of selecting the images, doing the type on the back, the checklists, everything with that was a very one-man show for the most part in the beginning stages of that thing. Now we've got the whole team together, and you know. Entire team. Now it's a good running machine when it comes to that.
You're not carrying it on.
I'm somewhat amazed you still have a head of hair after all that. So
I feel bad for you, man.
Well done to you. Well done,
dude. It's fun though. It's super fun. Like I can't say that it's, you know, a difficult thing to do. I mean, it's hard to do, but it's just, you know, I grew up in this world, and so now I'm kind of hoping to put stuff from that world into people's hands, and it's just fun.
But it's the wonderful thing, and as we said to Ken, who worked at Impel, then Skybox, and then was there, and then from there he turned a corner. He went into a completely different sector, a completely different vocation, and you know, our talking to him was him revisiting something he's not thought about even really or touched on for decades. And I think he found it quite touching, especially with some of the response from the episode, that he made such an impact on how people collect and how people view the products. And you know, I'm not blowing smoke up your bum, but you know, you have kind of set that template in a way, whether you intended to or not. I mean, you can still see it with your colleagues and your teammates who still produce the sets now, and I know you're still in it. So I'm interested to know in 10, 20 years time, when maybe you'll still be there, maybe you won't, maybe you'll be on a desert island somewhere drinking Mai Tais and holding on to your green PMGs that you've since sold, to get get there. Whether you will be kind of thinking back and seeing how the hobby progressed and how it rolled out, and what became of Upper Deck's journey with the cards, looking back in hindsight. That would be quite interesting. Anyway, so I'm just going.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like I see what our team has done even since I have turned it over, and Matt did a phenomenal job elevating the brands as well. Like he's done a lot of things that I didn't even think about. It's like, oh, that's a really cool idea. The Ant-Man card with a whole bunch of little tiny swatches in it was
we were talking about that last night. Norrin didn't know it existed, and I so
brought it up, and I was like, no way. And we looked it up on
ComC
somewhere, and man, we were just talking about that.
The micro swatch.
Yeah.
That was amazing. That was amazing. It's like every person in the movie, every costume piece that we had is like, oh, let's put it all on one card. Oh, okay. That's awesome,
man. It's freaking cool, man. That is just hilarious.
Incredible. Yeah, and with DPAC in the mix now, they're evolving the products to kind of cater to that customer as well, because we now know that people have connectivity with other collectors.
Yeah.
So nice. It's a lot easier to make sets and talk to people and move things around, and it's like, for me, going through one of the things I'm still trying to complete to this day is my 1994 Marvel Masterpieces gold foil signature parallel set of the Hildeband brothers. And so it was me going to stores and, hey, you got a common box over there of 94 masterpieces I can look through real quick. And so I'd slowly try to get things pieced together. Now it's just like you can talk to somebody across the world. It's like, hey, I need card 6. Okay, I got 4. What do you want to give me for it? How about card 7? Okay, good to go. Done. And you don't even leave your house. It's insane.
Yeah. Sir, you are welcome to come to our group, post your needs and wants, and I guarantee you within 2 hours you will have people sending you as whatever you need, my friend. You are always
because I'm looking through it right now. It's right next to me. I was like, oh, I miss it a lot still. It sucks.
Oh, dude, come on, man. Please, whenever you get the time, please join.
Right.
We'll take care of you for sure.
We will shepherd you. So you've kind of stepped over. Is it the TCG trading card?
Yeah, just our games in general. So that entails anything we do with TCGs, anything we do with board games, anything we do with esports. I'm also in charge of that stuff as well.
Oh.
I do our Overwatch League brand right now, and so that's kind of interesting because it's taking games and melding it with sports, and it's kind of takes my hybridness and puts it into a product, and it's been a challenge, but it's been fun. But yeah, it's kind of like the direction that I'm in right now.
I love that you're highlighting players of those games too, man. Like we see the cards come up every once in a while, and that's so smart, man. No one's been doing that, and those are going to be major sports. I mean, they are major sports now, but that's only going to gain popularity. Love that idea. That's
how it works. You got to elevate those people, because right now it's a very unfamiliar thing to a lot of people. With the younger generation, they know who people are. People that are hardcore collectors, they don't know what's going on. So we're trying to showcase the players, establish values of players, because that still hasn't been established yet of what these guys are worth. So it's been a fun process, kind of like just imagine making a trading card set the exact same day that the NBA started or the NHL started. And it's like
smart.
Nobody knows what to do with that kind of stuff. And so we had the opportunity with Blizzard and Overwatch League to, hey, here comes our new league, and you guys can start from day one. Okay, let's go.
Wow. See, but 10 years from now, when someone has this full collection, rookie card, it changes the game completely. Because these cards are there day one. That's really awesome, man. Great idea.
And it's just an education of the collectors right now, because that generation doesn't really know much about this, and so we're trying to educate them. We give them binders, and we give them sets, and we give them little packets of what cards mean. What's a rookie card? What's a mem card? What's an autograph card? So we're kind of educating the consumer as we're making these things.
Love it.
Interesting.
Very cool. Very cool.
I've got a few kind of quick fire questions just to kind of circle us into landing, so that you.
It's been so quick fire all day. I mean, that's what.
Well, no. Do you own all of the sets that you created?
Ooh.
So no. Kind of. So they're all at in my office because we can't sell anything or have anything. So what I've been doing is I don't have any of the insert cards. So what I do is when a set came out, we had boxes that could distribute to various people, and so I would walk around and try to put together a base set of everything. So I have base sets of everything that I've created. And I do have some binders of more complete stuff for reference at work in our library, so we can kind of go back and reference things. But personally, in my office, I got a base set for everything that we do, except for Marvel Masterpieces and Premiere because they're numbered.
Cool.
So
yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, but I do have like beginnings base sets: Thor, Captain America, Marvel Now. I have a full set of Kree Scroll War.
Oh yes.
That's awesome.
That product was interesting. Super fun, not successful, but it was. I tried doing things. Our team tried doing things that are just kind of unconventional and different sometimes. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
So,
but if you didn't try that, then you might not have discovered what didn't work for the next thing you went on to. So
you got it. You got it.
Come back in fashion. You know what I mean? You never know. Like things come back and go out. Yeah.
You learn by doing.
Next question. You've mentioned the word a couple of times, so I'm going to ask this of everyone that comes on this podcast from Upper Deck. How come you don't make binders? Oh god.
That's kind of a sore subject with me, man.
Oh
damn, Ian.
So it's something that I've been pitching for 10 years, and just make a binder, make a Masterpieces binder, do something. So about 2 weeks ago, Mosh actually sent out an email and he's like, why don't you guys make binders? I'm like, really?
Please.
Of course, when he says it.
Yeah. So it's something that's always in the back of our mind. You might see something.
Because in recognition of the fact that they obviously are probably quite costly to produce, they're definitely costly to transport and ship.
Yep.
I mean, we spitballed this about 6 months ago on an episode. Even if they just came out as a limited thing.
What I would do at work for the sets that I have at work for reference is I take a 3-ring binder that has the parts on the exterior we can slide things in. I cut up a box, and then I put those things in there, and that's my binder for a product. Beginnings. The box is just the right width. The side, the spine.
Yep. Spine.
Yes.
I want to say that was intentional, but it actually wasn't.
It's snug, but it goes in.
It works.
That's awesome.
So, next question: have you? And because we know Matt did. Have you had a trading card made with your image on in some form since you've been at Upper Deck?
I have.
Ooh.
So in our legendary deck building game that we have, the first expansion has 3 bystanders, which is a playable card in the game, and they were of the gaming team at that time. So it was myself, Jason Brunner, and Nick Leslie, and those 3 bystanders are all part of that team. It's kind of a little like a sneaky thing of like, hey, we busted our butts for this thing, man. Let's ourselves in.
That's cool.
That was the set that Matt's is in as well. I think it was a different.
It was a different one. Like we've been doing that ever since then. And so we've been slowly putting people from our company, outside of the company, tournament winners into bystander cards. And so there's probably 20 cards of people that are little Easter.
So fun.
We're gonna need to see that, Bubby. We're gonna need to see that.
He's like, I don't have one here. No, this is strange.
Just Google the paramedic card and you'll see it.
The paramedic card. We will do. I'm kind of, in terms of my quick fire questions, that was kind of it. I just it's that quick fire. It's kind of finished. Bubby, you're a delightful chap. Thank you.
You're amazing.
This has been great, man. This has been super fun.
This is hilarious. I mean, I'm obviously, it's rough out there. So look after yourselves, and yeah, I mean, I know you still kind of work alongside the people making the Marvel sets, and your fingerprints and your influence and your advice and your experience are still carrying over. So, yeah, carry on doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I just got some emails today from people asking for advice on Spider-Man. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll have to do some Spider-Man research for you.
Good.
Okay, go onto eBay.
Tortured soul.
Give $10,000 to someone with an erotic username with 15 feedback. There's some Spider-Man advice.
That's right. There you go.
That's right.
Yeah, you will own a one of one card. Bubby, thank you very much for coming on. And obviously, anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. And I guess all that remains now is we end our episode with our customary sign off. Enjoy collecting, and we would love it if you would take us out.
Well, all right, guys, enjoy collecting.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors podcast. Visuals and tasting notes for each episode can be found on our Facebook page. You can subscribe and leave us a voicemail via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Please take a second to subscribe, like, and review our show wherever you get your podcasts. Our podcast can be found by Googling @the MCC Pod, which will also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our Facebook community is at MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.